All right. Okay, perfect. So we're on Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. This is the Enriching Gifts Education Call. We're super excited. We've got our host for the call each and every week, Ron Schneider, just a legend in the industry when it comes to the immune system and immunoenzymology, and just an amazing background that we could literally do several calls just on that. But without further ado, I want to bring out Ron and just say, Ron, we're so fortunate to have you in our lives for your experience, your expertise, your knowledge, your wisdom, and your understanding, and for sharing each and every week with all of us. So I want to bring you out, and let's have an exciting call, and we get to see all the facial expressions and animation and all that good stuff as you're talking about coronavirus and everything else. So without further ado, my brother, Ron, welcome to the call.
Thank you, Dover. Appreciate being here. And this is my very first time ever on a webcam, ever, anywhere in the world. So it's kind of a unique experience for me. It is an exciting time. I'm going to come kicking a little bit. I'm loosening up a little bit as we go forward and get more of this social platforms and video calls and all this stuff. I'm an old dinosaur when it comes to all this stuff. But I want to get right into the call tonight because I don't want to waste a lot of time tonight. I want to make sure that everybody's got time for questions regarding the call or regarding health. But one of the things I do want to do is update everybody on the current coronavirus statistics. I know a lot of people don't have television. A lot of people don't care to watch TV anymore, just so negative and depressing, and I get it. But I just was watching the news this evening with Donald Trump's update, and they talked about the coronavirus statistics. And keep in mind now, I want to keep everybody, all this stuff in perspective. These look like fairly big numbers. So far, as of today's date, 641,507 people have actually contracted the coronavirus. And then the death toll, that's what's really revealing and important. There's 28,383 deaths so far in the United States alone. And of all of that, 641,000 people, 52,273 are fully recovered. I mean, they've gotten the virus, gotten the infection, and their body cured himself basically because there is no vaccine treatment. So those are the current numbers, but I want you to keep this in mind now. Now I'm going to put this in real perspective for you because what I didn't have a chance to go back, and Dover and I might do this sometime this week, so we have it for next week. You go back to the CDC statistics for influenza. And I don't care whether it's Dr. Anne Marie, she's a Fox News contributing doctor, or Mark Siegel, or Dr. Sanjay Gupta on CNN. Doesn't matter where you're going to hear this from. You go back and you've heard it for decades, literally decades, not years, decades. And on average, in the United States alone, every single year, on average, there's 48,921 people that die every year from influenza. Again, let me repeat that number on average for the last decade, 48,921 people. So we're just over 22,000 deaths. And keep in mind now, we're into our 5th month of this, because this started in December, January, February, March. That's 4. Here we are halfway through 5. And the cold and flu season statistics are only 4.5 months long. So they're gathering statistics to make this number big, so that they can keep perpetuating this whole story and narrative all the way through the summer months. This is not going to end anytime soon. And the question I have for everybody, where's the hysteria from 48,921 deaths on average for the last decade? That's more than twice of where we're at now. Where's been the decade? Where's the outrage? Where's all of the stuff going on that should have been there if this is really about a viral pandemic? This is not about a viral pandemic. And we're going to bring up a gal from Kalispell, Montana, Flathead Lake. And she's been a virologist for over 30 years. And she's telling you the exact same thing I am, only rather than go through her whole hour-and-a-half long tape, let me just share some of the highlights of what she's talking about. One, coronavirus, all the deaths are linked anything you have underlying diseases. If you have a television, been watching the news, all the people that are susceptible are seniors. The African American community because of genetics, the seniors because of their age, and of all the deaths, over 87% of all deaths from coronaviruses, all the patients had underlying health issues that could have killed them. So diabetes, heart disease, epilepsy, cancers. There was several other things too, but she talks in great detail about this. And it's if anybody hasn't seen it yet, you really need to go to it because she's just about as passionate about all of that as I am. She lays it all on the line. She doesn't pull any punches, and she actually gives quotes from the CDC, the National Institutes of Health, the World Health Organization, on and on and on and on. So I just want to just kind of put this all in perspective that this 22,000 number, that's less than 15% accurate according to her projections. I even think it's even manipulated higher than that, just to kind of justify what government is doing and taking away all of our rights. So I just wanted to kind of, expose this a little bit, talk about this, keep it all in perspective. Don't want anybody freaking out about it. It's not a big deal, even if it goes all the way through the summer, which sounds like they want to drag it through, just to have the numbers to somewhat justify opening up the congressional budget of about $5 to $7 trillion in the last 30, 35 days. And that's where this is all going. It's about money, it's about politics, it's about world dominance, about United Nations and World Health Organization and China all working together, wanting to bring out a one world order. We've all heard about that for decades now, but this is their big push. Bill Gates wants the entire world vaccinated because it's the only profitable business in medicine right now is vaccinations. And so if you can't do it voluntarily, now we're going to force you to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to go grocery shopping. You're not going to be able to license a vehicle. You're not going to be able to go in any public place without vaccination verification. So that's what all this stuff's all about, but I don't want to go down that road too much. I do want to get back to the actual topics of this call. It's all about cancer. It's all about heart disease. It's all about diabetes. It's all about a resource for help for people that are going through this stuff and don't really understand it because the doctor's not going to take time to give you the information. They just don't have the time. And for two, a lot of them don't know anywhere near as much about the disease, which they're prescribing medications for, as myself. And what I choose to focus on is the immune system. And like I always tell people, and I've even said this to doctors' face, it's all about the immune system, stupid. Because what I've actually learned in my life from traveling the world and meeting and working with the top virologists in the world is that really there is nobody that ever died from a disease. What you die from is a compromised immune system. Because otherwise, why wouldn't everybody die from the same disease? What makes one person different from society than the rest of them that are living healthy and without disease? It's a non-compromised immune system. It's an effective, functioning immune system. And that's what you need in order to live a life disease-free and extremely healthy. And like I tell people all the time, I haven't had a cold or flu since April 23rd, 1984. 84, that's 36 years ago. And that sounds unbelievable, but hey, I got the medical records to prove it. Last time I did see a doctor 3 years ago, they said, wow, when was the last time you seen a doctor? And I said, well, I don't even remember, but it's been well over 30 years ago. She pulled up my records. Last time I seen a doctor was April 23rd, 1984. It had nothing to even do with colds or flus, by the way. It had to do with my back. But anyways, so you can live a healthy life. That's the bottom line. So what do I know that all of you out there don't know? I know all about the immune system, all the enzymes that run and regulate every single cell that functions within that system. So that's what I kind of want to get the calls back to, but each week I am going to update everybody on the so-called pandemic, COVID-19 or coronavirus pandemic, because it is important to know these numbers are going to start sliding very dramatically. And, they talked about the number of affected here in the United States, 600 and some thousand. Every year from influenza, we go through, and there's over 23 million people that get the influenza every year in America. That's 600 and some thousand. almost 23 million people every year on average get the influenza, cold, and flu. And like I said, you'd have to have it in the millions if you're going to have 48,000, almost 49,000 people die from it every year on average. So that's all I really wanted to get into for tonight's call as far as the health hour. But I did want to bring some perspective to this, and hopefully for the people that are on the Zoom platform and are watching us, they got to see the Dr. Annie, and I can't pronounce her last name, but she's from Kalispell, Montana. Very, very effective meeting. The governor of the state, by the way, was in that meeting. So it was very effective, and I hope everybody goes to it, watches it. You're going to really get an education on what this is really all about. And it's nothing to jump up and down and be hysterical about by any means whatsoever. So with that being said, that's all I really had for tonight. It's going to be very brief. I'm still getting used to this, feeling comfortable in front of a camera, in front of all of you, but it is nice to see some faces. Nice to see Arthur. Arthur and I've talked over the years, and I never ever saw him, but now I know what he looks like, and he knows what I look like. So good to see you, Arthur. I like this platform of connection with people because it's a lot more than just a phone call. So with that being said, Dover, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and we can open this call up for questions with regards to any kind of disease, illness, or even coronavirus.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Ron. And absolutely. Am I live? Everyone can hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, let's open it up. Steve did put something in the chat box here. Medicare pays a hospital about $4.6 thousand for pneumonia patient, $13,000 for COVID-19, $39,000 for putting the patient on a ventilator. The incentive is to diagnose COVID-19 and ventilate them, even if it harms. So thank you for that comment, Steve. Appreciate that. And if anyone has a question or a comment, feel free to unmute your line or your video or both and come on out, ask the question for Ron, because we're all going to get educated in the process. So who has a question or a comment? If you are in a position where you cannot do that, then you could type it in the chat and I'll read it out loud here for everyone's benefit. So anyone else have a question or a comment? And for those of you that I muted, in your bottom left-hand corner of your screen, there's a mute button. We did have some background noise, so I took the liberty to just mute out some of you. But if anyone has a question or a comment, please come on out.
No
Steve, I'm going to unmute you just to see if there's any.
I have a question. It's Arthur Dorfman.
Yes.
The thing is, Ron, I'm a vegan, and I think I have a very strong immune system. And the last time I ever had the flu, I don't even remember.
Right.
I'm never sick. And my question to you is, what is the most important thing you can do to strengthen the immune system?
Boy, that's a loaded question, Arthur, but I'll try to keep it simple. One, because of your age, almost everybody on these calls are over the age of 35, most of us anyway.
I'm 84.
Right. Okay. Well, the first thing you do is you don't compromise your immune system. Let's not forget about strengthening it for now. Just don't compromise what your body already has. Forget about the deterioration, forget about the age factor. Let's just not compromise what we have to work with, whatever that is. And one of the biggest factors that compromise the human immune system is your daily muscle, tissue, meat, flesh diet. Chicken, beef, turkey, pork, lamb. Your body just can't digest that anymore. And there's nothing that will compromise your immune system, not even inflammation, will compromise your immune system as much as a poorly digested muscle, tissue, meat, flesh diet. So you're vegan, I get it, you don't eat meat, so we don't have to worry about that. So the things that you can do to increase your strengthening of your immune system, we're not going to boost it, we're going to actually enlarge it, increase it, and we're going to dramatically increase the activity of it. And there's 4 things that everybody should be doing not only just through this coronavirus pandemic and epidemic, but they really want to keep your immune system strong every single day you're alive, because your quality of life is really determined by your immune system's efficiency and ability to function properly. That's how what everybody's number one quality of life determining factor is. How well and how strong is your immune system functioning? And so I always start with the digestive enzymes. Don't allow your diet undigested protein or incompletely digested protein, whether it's vegetarian, you eat large amounts, or whether it's meat, flesh, muscle tissue specifically. Don't allow your immune system to be compromised by your diet. So the only thing that would compromise your immune system from your diet is your body doesn't produce enough enzymes to digest the meal. So it gets in the bloodstream incompletely digested, and proteins, whether they're vegetarian or animal, when they get in the bloodstream incompletely digested, they're very, very sticky and mucousy. And they just clog up, surround the surface of your red blood cells, and they're just sticky. So all your red blood cells just clump and clog together by millions, literally thousands. It's called erythrocyte aggregation, is the most severe. And the next level down below that, that's not quite as severe, is called rouleau. And this was named after a French scientist. And that scientist actually showed when the blood is chronically rouleaued, you're very susceptible to cancer and other anaerobic, meaning oxygen depleted diseases. So that's the number one thing. Everybody should be taking a digestive enzyme who's over the age of 35. Everybody. Man, woman, doesn't matter your genetics, everybody should do that. Because the fact of the matter is, every living person on the planet Earth, by the time they hit the age of 38 to 42, your body produces less than 50% of the enzymes for your digestion of your daily meals as it did at age 15. And you just can't support a healthy functioning body with 50% less enzymes. It's just not going to work. And this is very, very minor. This is actually protein linkage, what Dover's showing you on the screen. Erythrocyte aggregation is these real long chains. Everything is just clumped together. And you see these little spider webs over top each other called fibrinogen spicular stress strands. That's an indicator of inflammation, stuff like that. But that's the first thing. Don't allow your diet to compromise what your immune system is, whatever it is. And so the second thing is take Steromax, because these very unique glucosides, this is now a nutrient, it's no longer a compound. A glucoside is a pre-sugar nutrient that actually activates 6 different enzymes within most immune system cells. We use the human T lymphocyte in some of the research that I was involved in South Africa for this. And the discoverer of this glucoside, his name is Professor Carl Pagel. He knows more about sterols, which are plant fats, and glucosides than anybody in the whole world. And on and off from 1994 all the way to 2001, I was over in Africa an awful lot of months, probably even about a year and a half over those 6-7 years, working with a lot of various different doctors from the different countries within the continent. And what we found out was, through his initial research, was there's 6 enzymes that are activated with this glucoside, and the enzymes within the T lymphocytes that are activated, those enzymes control the overall modulation, which means to regulate, and proliferation, the ability to reproduce cellularly. That's what those enzymes are activated. They do that job. And the only thing that will activate those enzymes to do that job is a glucoside. And glucosides are not found in any food or plant or seed. They're only found in a single blade of grass called the sprout. That's the only place you can find that nutrient. So our diets are severely depleted. And like Professor Pagel had told me one time, he said, you know, the human race has never really experienced full capacity and functioning of the human immune system's capability, because nobody lives from an all sprout-based diet. And the amount of sprouts you'd have to eat in order to get the amount of glucosides that would bring about that modulation proliferation factor of immune cell functioning is somewhere between 11 and 15 pounds of sprouts a day. So that's pretty unrealistic that we're going to eat that much to get that much into our system. So the Steromax capsules, they have the equivalent of about 14 to 15 pounds of sprouts, glucoside, in those 6 capsules. So that's the next thing. Enzymes first. Don't let your diet compromise your immune system. Now let's enlarge and dramatically increase the activity and efficiency of the functioning immune system by using glucosides. So So anyways, let me just do this. I got to turn off my phone. This is kind of new for me too. There we go. Don't have to worry about that anymore. So that's the second thing. Start taking the Sterile Max. And you're going to hear about glucosides. You may have heard them through other companies, other products. But then you're going to see ratios of what they're using is 23 to 1, 19 to 1, 27 to 1, 21 to 1. That's 27 parts sterols, which are plant fats, and only 1 part glucoside for each one of that. So again, you've got to take a huge amount of sprouts, even a few pounds of that every day, just to get a significant amount of glucosides. And so I was working in Honolulu. Well, I actually lived there. I didn't work there. I lived there from 1997, well, November 96 all the way through 2001. And I worked with the horticulture department of Hawaii Pacific, and we actually created our own plant called an oil seed, and that has a 1 part glucoside to 1 part sterol. And you know, there's another company out there called Moducare, and they have a worldwide patented extraction process where they artificially manipulate, they extract the glucosides from one source and add it into another source. So that whole process is actually patented. But even there, I'm about 20 times stronger per capsule than even a medical grade product called Moducare. So that's the second thing you do, is strengthen your immune system. And then the third thing you do, make sure that you're digesting your food fully, because again, your immune system needs other nutrients other than just glucosides. And so we go to the probiotics and intestinal tissue health, where nutrients are absorbed properly from the GI tract into the bloodstream. And so we put together a probiotic formula that supports that. And then the fourth one is the Metabolic Complete. It's an antioxidant, or the heart algae, which is an astaxanthin-based product. Either one have very, very high antioxidants, and antioxidants neutralize oxidation from occurring, so they significantly slow way down the hardening process through oxidation. And anything that's oxidized, meaning it's hardened in the body, now is forced to accumulate it in the tissues, organs, and joints of the body. Give an example like gout, for example. That's a disease that's created by heavy accumulation of oxidized uric acid in a crystallized form. And it crystallized because it was in the body longer than 10 hours. So it oxidized into a crystal through oxidation. But that's an example of things your body would accumulate through the oxidative process. And everybody produces uric acid on the entire planet Earth that eats any kind of a protein. Protein is the leftover byproduct of the protein digestive process. And as long as it's in and out of the body, meaning it's metabolized in a 6 to 8 hour time frame, then you're okay, and even 10 hours. But anything over 10, and by 12 hours, it's literally a solid green gold crystal reflecting light. It's so crystallized at heart, it literally refracts light. So those are the things that I recommend. And then the last one is to give your body specific nutrients that help your body recover and cellularly reproduce itself. And that would be the Aloe Max. Polysaccharides are the active ingredient in aloe products. And polysaccharides are long chain sugar molecules that wrap around the receptors of the alpha and beta sites on all surface of all cells. And so they actually give the body to fire, if you will, or function throughout the entire receptors of the cell. You don't have a partial, a little bit here, a little bit there, and half of it isn't even activated. And we have the extra long branched chain polysaccharides in the aloe product. So those are the fundamental 5 that I say to optimum health. You have 1 for the enzymes, 2 for the Sterile Max for immunity, 3 the probiotics for GI tract health, 4 for prevention and slowing down all oxidation in the body, but it even includes inflammation. And then 5 would be the Aloe Max to actually help your body cellularly recover. Because of that sugar specific nutrient in long chain polysaccharide, your body can reproduce itself cellularly 2.7 times faster than it can with any other nutrient on its own. So that's what I would recommend for you, Arthur, to have a great quality life and good, wonderful health for probably a lot of years to come.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Anybody else have any questions, comments on the call?
Okay, Ron, we do have a question in the chat.
Okay.
And James Young says, how much does stress levels, stress effect, or hormones compromise the immune system?
It's the number one compromising a factor outside of poorly digested meal because of enzyme deficiencies. Anytime you have inflammation, you're going to have a swelling of the tissue. Anytime you have swelling, you're going to have restrictive blood flow. And that means oxygen, nutrients, getting rid of toxins, things like that. In fact, inflammation is the underlying cause of most conditions because that will compromise your immune system. And like I was saying earlier, nobody really dies from a disease. They die from a compromised immune system. And there's a lot of different things that can compromise an immune system. But your diet is definitely one of the biggest ones. You know, there was a gentleman on the Fox News on one evening here, Michael Milken was his name. And he has a cancer treatment clinic and stuff. And he said, because he really talked badly about the effects of chemoradiation. But he was saying that literally he was able to help people overcome and alleviate cancer, over 50% of the people that he worked with, just by changing their diet alone and getting them on enzymes and giving them back the ability to digest what they consume. And proteolytic enzyme, protease enzymes specifically, are what the body uses after the inflammation process is created to protect the body. There's different proteases your body produces that actually dissolve those protein strands that create inflammation process in the body. So even the protease enzymes is the highest category of enzymes in my Enriching Gifts plant enzymes formula. Even that will actually help to alleviate and keep at bay inflammation on a regular daily basis. You don't have inflammation unless you have something really, really terribly wrong with you. But just not only are you getting the benefits of digestion, you're getting 500 to 700% increased nutrition from your meal source, specifically protein. Sirloin steak is what the study was done. And you're going to get all these other benefits just from enzymes outside of digestion, and reducing inflammation is one of them. You know, people talk about serrapeptidase as the natural anti-inflammatory protease enzyme. Well, I've got enzymes that are even way more effective at that, at reducing inflammation. And I show people in a blood analysis, you can literally see the color of your blood change. It's not a little color, it's a big color change from a dark black cherry to a literally fire engine pink red. And it's crystal clear, you can see your fingerprints through it. And that can occur in less than an hour after taking 3 enzymes. And it doesn't even have to be on an empty stomach. You can actually have food in your bloodstream, food in your GI tract, and that's just how strong and potent that is. But you see all those little black lines that were in there earlier, and they're all gone. Where'd they go? They were digested. So yeah, inflammation, good question, but inflammation is a huge factor in compromising the immune system. It's probably the next biggest factor next to a compromised digestion of your meal daily because of lack of enzymes. Good question. You're welcome. See, we got a couple more on the chat line. Do you want to kind of see what those are, Dover?
Over, I think you're muted.
I shouldn't be. No, I can hear it. I can see.
No, it was me, and I was talking to myself. So I'm sure I'm live now. All right, you're absolutely right. So what I was saying is we do have, we've opened up the line for the previous, the normal conference call system that we use. So if anyone was speaking there before we get to Karen's question in the chat here, does anyone have a question or a comment for Ron? Please ask away. And if you were speaking prior, we could not hear you.
Ron?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Arthur Dorfman again. I have a question that doesn't have anything to do with the immune system, but high blood pressure. And I take medication for depression, and it's very helpful.
Okay.
And I can't go off these medications. And I'm pretty sure that one or two of them are causing the high blood pressure, and I don't know how to get rid of it.
Well, the only thing that, well, again, the side effects from the drug, usually the only thing I could tell you is you have to change the drugs. Try to get the same drug in the same category, but a different brand, and sometimes that will affect it. That you'll have to talk with your doctor about that. Because you can only take so many enzymes to thin the blood. The biggest thing that relieves pressure from the heart is to thin the blood, remove the protein from the blood, or break it way down so it circulates very easily. And that's how most people lower or totally remove high blood pressure from their life. Because there's really not much you could do at your age as far as exercising and things like that would help to increase the vascularity of not only your heart, but your circulatory vessels, strengthen them a little bit and stuff. And other than that, oxygen. Oxygen helps to relieve a little bit of blood pressure sometimes, takes the overworking of the organ, takes a little bit of stress off of that. But the only thing I can tell you is just antioxidants and enzymes is really all I can work with as far as that goes. But we've been very successful at lowering blood pressure if you're using enzymes consistently every meal, at least 2 per meal, and a couple at bedtime. And that's worked for a lot of people, getting them off all their blood thinners and their heart attack and stroke medications, stuff like that. Takes a couple of years to work your way up to that, but it does help. It does work for most people.
Okay, thank you very much.
You bet. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Arthur. Ron, we got another question in the chat. It's from Karen. Karen says she has a question. What are the reasons someone cannot absorb nutrition properly? She has a friend with scoliosis, chronic tendon and bone issues, and she suspects that she cannot absorb vitamin D. She is Irish and has used a lot of sunscreen in her life. So
Right.
That's Karen's question.
Well, and that's why she has scoliosis stuff, because she can't absorb vitamin D. Vitamin D, calcium can't be utilized without vitamin D in the body. They work hand in hand together. That's why if you see my formulas on the coral calcium, you'll see vitamin D3 added to that calcium formulation, because one can't work without the other. It's like B12 and folic acid. You're going to get very limited effectiveness because the minute you put them both together, they're going to work so much better. And I gotta tell you also to start taking about 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C every day when you start taking your calcium or your vitamin D3, because calcium is a carrier for most nutrients in the body. It's not a chelate. It does not chelate, but it actually opens up the receptors because it's a natural nutrient. And you'll see that the absorption and utilization of other nutrients are greatly enhanced just with taking ascorbic acid, vitamin C, when you take those other supplements. So that's the first thing. Why would your body not do it? One, and the biggest factor is because it's not being digested completely. Is this person taking the digestive enzymes 2 to 3 every meal, a couple of bedtime? You've got to do that. There's no person that's going to get away with not taking a digestive enzyme in this world and still maintain some kind of quality of health. And if you look at their diet, they're going to be raw vegans. They're not going to eat cooked soups and frozen vegetables and this and that. They got to heat up, and most of the enzyme activity is destroyed through all of that process. People can live a very long, healthy life even without a digestive enzyme, but you could live a much longer, healthier life with a digestive enzyme. And that's the one thing that I would say to everybody. If your body's not getting what it needs, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be because it's not digested in a form the body can absorb. That has to be done through the digestive process. So I think that answered that question.
It did. Thank you. But being that she was so young and she's always had these issues, I mean, now she's 49, but
Right.
these issues were when she was a child.
Right. And what she had was poor genetic inheritance. So
Yeah.
who in her family had similar issues?
Her father.
I was going to say it's either her father or her mother, because she got that from somewhere. And what she got was really crappy digestive genes. She just doesn't digest well. She never did produce a lot of high protease enzymes to where you could actually digest and break all the proteins down properly. that's the problem. And those do show up at very young. Sometimes they even show up at birth. So that was the problem. She just got most of that as poor genetics. But I'm another factor of poor genetics. My daughter, Talia, who a lot of you have spoken to now on the enrichinggift.com website, she has the same poor genetics I do. And she struggles, but she's doing a lot better at her age than I ever did. Because I could feel the chest pains and the heart disease and the fatigue and the slow growth and the muscle tissue development and all that stuff. So I'm not going to get into a whole lot about it, but she's actually doing something about it. I helped to educate her really young, probably in her teen years. This is just what you're going to have to deal with. But as I'm learning, and I'll share this with you, you can offset a lot of this. You can't get rid of it, but you can certainly offset a whole lot of it, which I've been able to do with my age. I mean, a lot of people, I got some gray hair. That's why I grew this, because I never had much up here, and I'm 64 years old. I'll be 65 this year. So, and most of my brothers, they were gray like this way back in their 30s. My father was completely bald, and all he had was gray hair, gray chest hair, gray everything by the time he was 38. So you don't have to be a victim to all of that. You don't have to succumb to an early death either. You don't have to succumb to living the last 20 years of your life with some severe debilitating degenerative disease that you inherited through your genetics. You do not have to be that person anymore, and I'm living proof of that. So biggest thing I could tell you is get on the enzymes, the sterols, and the antioxidants. Those are the three fundamentals in the probiotics. Because once you start digesting, then your body has, because here's the beautiful thing about what you just asked me. Even with the crappy genetics, we all have a body that we can function and exist from. That can never, ever be taken away from you until you no longer breathe. So how do we support the natural functioning process of whatever genetics we inherited? How do we support that process? And that's going to go through the digestion, your immunity, your GI tract health, and your antioxidants. That's just fundamental for everybody that lives. And when you support that, your body starts now being able to get things that it wasn't genetically programmed to do efficiently. Now we're compensating for what we genetically are weak in the ability to do for ourselves. And that's what I've been doing for myself for over 30 years, since I've understood genetics and learned about the immune system and all of that. And it does work tremendously well. So does that help you out?
It does. Do you think that she should do the D3 also? Or just
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. D3, because if you're not doing the D3, your body's not going to utilize calcium, regardless of what form it's in, whether it's a carbonate, bicarbonate, sulfate, nitrate, citrate, a malate, citrate, malate. Your body's just not going to use calcium without vitamin D3. It's the carrier for calcium into the tissue. So they have to use them both. And if she's got really that bad of bone disease and stuff, I'd really encourage her to use about between 5,000 and 7,000 IUs of vitamin D every single day.
Thank you.
Next.
Great question. Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, very good.
Anyone else have a question or a comment? I'm going to unmute the other conference line. Anyone on here have a question or a comment for Ron? You are live, so unmute your phone and come on out. And or if you're on the Zoom call, then unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, Ron, this is Roderick.
Yes.
Hey, I have attempted to call my Auntie Ann, and I've conferenced her into the line. And I don't know if she's with me, but hopefully she's hearing. I'm going to ask the question for her. She's been having some bloating. And she talked to Janine, you know Janine, my girlfriend, and she's had her get on some enzymes and take some other things. But I'm just going to ask you, maybe you can answer, how do you stop this constant bloating? Everything she eats, she gets bloat, she gets gas, and it's just been a chronic problem.
Well, first question I have is, how long has this problem been going on? Is it since she started taking digestive enzymes, or is she taking the enzymes to try to get rid of the bloating problem?
I'm taking the enzymes to try to get rid of the bloating.
Okay, so you've had it for a lot of years, not just since you started taking some.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Right.
it's going to take some time. What that is, it's a lot of toxins built up and accumulated in your GI tract through oxidation. They're literally hardening. That wall is about 2.5, 3 inches thick. It just, your body creates a snotty film of mucus about every 3 to 5 days. And what it does, it just seeps down the sides of the GI tract wall to keep your fecal matter from embedding itself into the tissue itself. So it's kind of a protective slimy barrier, if you will. And it does two things. It protects the inner tissue, but it also gives a nice fluid slickness to move your bowels through your GI tract and eliminate them. And as the enzymes could actually increase that temporarily, you almost always get, and you're a high protein eater too. You like your meat, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Just need to hear confirmation on that. That's one of the biggest problems, because a lot of gas gets created when digestion just slowly decomposes rather than digests. Decomposing is a process that literally takes hours and days. Digestion takes hours and just a couple hours. Won't say minutes because it's 60 minutes or more. But there's the problem. That's one problem, is your main diet. You just don't have the ability to digest proteins anymore. All that old, badly, poorly, incompletely digested proteins are all oxidized into that, I call it the inner tube of the GI tract. And as that stuff exists in there, it's constantly releasing gas because it's decomposing. It's not digesting. And anything that decomposes is going to release gas. With the nature is protein at its element that's actually decomposing. And all protein, especially animal flesh, like I said, very hard to digest. I'm not saying to stop it, but you could transition over to a seafood diet for a month or two. Let your body kind of clean itself out as you're getting used to starting these new enzymes. And that would help a lot.
Because the only meat I eat is chicken and fish.
Well, fish is always a better choice than chicken. Any type of muscle tissue, you're going to have an extremely difficult time to digest it. And you really don't get that much benefit out. I mean, you will get the amino acid benefit, which is the broken down, complete broken down nutrients derived from a protein source. And all tissue in the human body is built with amino acids. So protein in your diet is critically important. But the muscle tissue, beef, chicken, pork, turkey, lamb, that's not important. Just like Mr. Dorfman, he's a vegetarian. I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Zane, Mr. Olympia. He was the first Mr. Olympian champion, and he was a pure vegan, 100% pure vegetarian. So I would go transition more over to a fish diet for the next couple months and see how that change in your diet, along with taking the enzymes every meal and a couple of bedtime, I bet you that gas and bloating starts to diminish significantly. And
Okay, thank you.
Shouldn't take you a couple months to see the full effects of that. You should start seeing the effects of that in about 10 days to 2 weeks. Should start noticing a little less gas, and every week that goes by, you'll see a little less, little less, little less.
It's been about 10
Ron?
days already.
Yeah.
10 days? Oh, yeah. Yeah, but you've been eating meat still during that 10 days, right?
What's that?
Chicken.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I'm telling you,
She's also been taking...
It's the muscle tissue in the diet that's having a problem, because it's not only just what you're consuming now. You literally have decades of old, incompletely digested meat flesh hanging around in your GI tract. It's all hardened in this, in the GI tract mucus, but it is there, and it's bloating. It's releasing gas for a whole time. It's there until your immune system eventually gets through it and gets it cleaned up. But most people, they never ever do that. John Wayne died with, I think, what was it, 24 or 28 pounds of undigested muscle tissue, fecal matter in his bowels.
Oh, that's gross.
Yeah, and that was for years and years of poor digestion. So that's how you can, I would start with that and then follow up with me in a couple weeks and let's see where you're at. Just get rid of that muscle tissue flesh and go more towards a fish and a vegetarian protein diet.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Thank
And
you.
the other question I had, Ron, is does probiotics help in this situation as well?
Absolutely, because probiotics are all bacterial in nature. But what does that bacterial shell house? Whole bunch of variety of enzymes that help aid in the digestive process. They can digest down parasitic bacteria, parasitic viruses. They can digest down food to a much smaller level. They're not really used as digestive enzymes, but that's why they call it your second immune system, because it literally digests everything down to where your immune system's not having to go and digest it once it gets in the bloodstream, poorly or incompletely digested. And definitely that's not what you want your immune system to do. And that's the way your body becomes compromised, because now your immune system is over there digesting all this sticky mucousy protein off of the red blood cells, while candida and parasitic bacteria and everything growing right beside it. I watch it and see it in the microscope all the time. Your body will always go after digesting and freeing up those red blood cells to do their functioning job before they'll ever get to the anaerobic and parasitic organisms or even the disease elements in the blood. I see it all the time. Digestion's number one, first and foremost. So nothing's going to compromise your immune system worse than a poorly digested diet or a poorly consumed diet. So
Thank you, Ron.
Probiotics do help with that, yes. Okay.
Hey, Ron, this is Dover. Great question. Thank you, Roderick, for bringing your aunt on the call with us. My question is more just piggyback, and we do have another question in the chat, getting close to the top of the hour. Yep. Galactosidase is in terms of the plant enzymes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's why there's an enzyme that breaks down gas. It actually breaks the gas molecule and turns it more into like air. So it's not gas. It doesn't have the bloating, the swelling. There's not a huge amount of it in there, but there is a significant amount in there for just that, because it actually helps to break down gas in the GI tract so you don't get that severe bloating and swelling and all those kind of things. Yeah, and that's an enzyme specifically that breaks down gas. And it is in our plant enzyme formula.
Awesome. Okay. Next question. Steve has a question about the amino acids and being on sale. And do amino acids have a shelf life?
Amino acids really don't. I mean, we have to put an expiration date on them. And let me just share with everybody, the reason why these are on sale is because at the manufacturing, when I received them, they messed up on the code date and only put a single-year expiration date on it. Instead of a 3-year, they put a 1-year. And people will also notice that on the 180 count starter enzymes, the new batch I get in, instead of having a 3-year expiration date, they actually have a 5-year expiration date on them. So, and they're good for 5 years because we've done stabilization studies on all my products for 5 years, but I only want 3-year expiration dates on all the products. And so the amino acids, they're going to be good for at least 2 years after that date, which is coming up in January of 2021. But they're a new product in as of January this last year, and they just screwed up on the code or the expiration date on the bottle. And they've done it a couple times, so I think that we probably have either replaced that person or got rid of that person because it's very incompetent at his job, or her, whoever was at there. I don't visit my own manufacturing very often, but it's been rectified. So, but anyway, that's why those are on sale, and they really do have a shelf life, because especially mine, because these are pre-digested, but they have at least a 4-year shelf life. You can go to any protein powder or anything like that. Most of those have even a longer shelf life because they're not pre-digested. They're called elemental protein. These are pre-digested, so they're instantly absorbed, instantly utilized by the cell. Not a whole lot of digestion or chelation that has to go on along in order to utilize them at the cell level. So, but to answer the question, yeah, they do have a shelf life, but it's way more than 1 or 2 years. It's about double that.
Fantastic. Thank you for the question, Steve, and appreciate the answer, Ron. Anyone else? Last question. We need to wrap up the call here shortly. So if anyone has a question or a comment, feel free to come on out and ask your question. Okay. All right. Well, Ron, this has been a fantastic call. Any closing words that you want to share with us?
No, I just wanted to say I appreciate being able to see the people that came on this evening that I was able to see. Mr. Dorfman, it was a pleasure finally meeting you after all these, probably a decade of ordering products with us, if not longer than that even. And so I kind of like this format a little bit. It connects me other than just a voice on the phone. Now you can kind of see a face, and you can tell an awful lot about people's face. So.
Okay, thank you. I've seen you before, but not live. I mean,
Right.
like this.
Picture on the internet. All right, thanks, Arthur. Appreciate it. But yeah, so I'm excited about this format. It's going to take me a few weeks to get comfortable being on a camera again. Thought those days were long behind me, but that's okay. It's in my living room now.
That's right. You did awesome, Ron. We appreciate all that you do, and very, very, very rich information that you give to us each and every week. So I just want to say thanks again. Thank you for those of you that had the questions in the chat, and Arthur. So happy you got to connect with Ron via this platform too. So, and share this with everyone. There's a lot going on in the world, and you know, the best way to help the sick is not be one of them. And so let's get ourselves in our house in order first. And in the meantime, let's share this gift called Enriching Gifts with everyone else. Looks like you have a comment, Ron, so go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say it. And for everybody that participated in tonight's call and stuff, I would like a little bit of feedback, good or bad or indifferent, about tonight's call and how well it went, where we can improve maybe going forward. And I'd like feedback each and every week. So, because we want to improve to where we have the perfect, even though I've always said there's no such thing as perfection or perfect. But I want to have as close to it as we can to where everybody is really enjoying what we're offering them as we go forward with this new technology and stuff. So that was my last comment.
Great. And Ronnie says he likes this format very much. Yeah.
And we like the fireplace too, Ron.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ron. The fireplace is great. great backdrop.
Yeah, it's nice fire behind me. My back's a little warm, but it's nice. Snowed over here in Montana. I can't believe it. Middle of April, we've still got snow out on the ground.
Hey, Ron.
Yeah. Well, have a great night, everybody. We got to get off the call. We have our leadership call right after this. So I appreciate everybody. And we'll definitely be doing this more often, and especially next week.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks a lot, Ron. Thanks a lot, everybody. Be safe out there, people.
Yeah.
Thanks.